Greetings. It's time for another extraordinary tale from our universe. The complete narrative. My wife engaged in an affair with her supervisor, prompting my response. I am a 32-year-old male, and my wife is a 28-year-old female. I have shared 7 wonderful years with my wife. Initially, it was wonderful. She was my soulmate, and I was hers. Our interests aligned in various areas such as sports, entertainment, social issues, more on that later, holiday destinations, and more. We were content. However, things began to shift as my wife grew more distant, exhibiting a slight chill in her demeanor. Allow me to provide you with some valuable insight. Our journey together spans 7 remarkable years. It was, as I mentioned, joyful. In that moment, it seemed as though I was her entire universe, and she was the center of mine. We spent time with friends, and I noticed her consistently smiling at me during our conversations. She cared for me during my times of illness, just as I did for her. She would support me whenever necessary. She was my steadfast support, my closest companion, my soul companion. We would engage in various activities together, such as hiking, camping, and visiting wildlife resorts, sharing the same interests. Head out to enjoy the football match. Our connection was fueled by a deep passion for one another. I always desired for her to remain as she is. Upon our initial encounter, her beauty was striking. With brunette, curly hair, a stunning smile, and a genuinely nice demeanor. She consistently suggested the same to me. She made me feel valued. At no point did I experience feelings of inadequacy or insecurity regarding myself. Further details will be provided at a later time. As I mentioned, it was wonderful for more than 5 years. However, a shift occurred when her new supervisor commenced her duties. I have decided to refer to him as Marge's 30. Initially, she would return home and discuss Marge's. She would express that he possesses a sense of humor and brings joy to those around him. Initially, I was somewhat surprised, as she typically returned home and inquired about both my day and hers. However, she promptly began discussing Marge's without delay. At that moment, I dismissed it as the behavior of someone who was inexperienced in her role, as she perceives the same years. When Marge's arrived, it was a breath of fresh air. As the weeks go by, my wife appears increasingly distant and enigmatic. Her decision to work nights was not a concern for me, as she had done so many times before. Nonetheless, we had plans to visit a mutual friend's residence for some drinks. He is in a critical condition and has received a diagnosis of a serious illness. My wife, as I mentioned, is typically a steadfast presence, genuinely empathetic and incredibly supportive. Upon learning about our friend Daniel, 32, we promptly decided to visit and extend our support. The evening drew to a close, and my wife was delayed returning from her night out at work. I attempted to reach her several times, but there was no response. I sent her a message, but received no response. After some time, I made the decision to visit Daniel on my own. Daniel and I discussed his methods of adaptation and coping strategies. In that moment, I empathized with Daniel. It is truly unfortunate to encounter such cruelty towards a genuinely nice individual. Upon returning home, I found myself filled with anger. My wife has yet to return home. No calls or texts were missed. Is that so? I was utterly astonished. I began to feel concerned that she might have been involved in an accident. I reached out to her work colleague, Jane, 28. I approached Jane and inquired whether my wife, Kelly, was out with her. Jane mentioned that she is, but upon returning home, it was only her and Marge's who remained. I felt a surge of anger, feeling quite frustrated. We have known Daniel for years, and she would choose to miss meeting our friend for someone she just met. I continually reassured myself that there must be a rationale behind this situation. I remained patient until her arrival home. At last, she returned home and found me in the living room, gazing at her. What seems to be the issue? Is everything all right?" I gazed at her in confusion and replied, "Daniel." She appeared utterly mortified. "I apologize. I overlooked it. I spent time with colleagues and inadvertently lost track of the hours." Her expression conveys sincerity. She and Daniel share a strong friendship, so it's possible that she simply forgot. I inquired of her a question. "Who accompanied you?" She responded, as is customary, Jane, Sophie, 30, and so forth. I responded, "Not Marge's." Indeed, he was present. I continued forward, recalling Jane's words. "Did everyone remain until the conclusion?" She responded affirmatively, stating that it had indeed been a pleasant evening. The following day, I find myself filled with anger. I remain silent with my wife, yet I have always known her to be truthful. She has always upheld her commitments. I was unable to comprehend that she would abandon our ailing friend for someone she had only recently encountered. In the days that followed, my wife began to grow increasingly distant. Upon returning home, she would display a lack of affection towards me. I attribute this to her workload, perhaps, but upon returning home, she would be incessantly engaged with her phone. I inquired, "Who is it that you are consistently messaging?" She referred to him merely as a colleague from the office. I inquired of her, "Is it Marge's?" "No," she replied. "But what's the issue if it is?" I had never witnessed my wife react defensively in this manner, yet I felt compelled to be truthful. I responded, "As you continually bring him up. He has been collaborating with you for less than a month, and it appears that you hold him in high regard. Your face radiates joy when you speak of him. In fact, you completely overlooked Daniel. I knew I had struck the right chord." She responded, "No, I do not idolize Marge's. He is pleasant, yet remains merely a friend. I have already extended my apologies to Daniel. This fell short. I bided my time until she drifted off to sleep and then proceeded to examine her phone. To everyone's astonishment, it contained an array of intimate messages exchanged between them. I captured images of the discussion for future reference. A week has elapsed, and the situation persists. The long evenings, the absence of warmth. I discussed my concerns with a friend, and he suggested that I might be overreacting. Consider doing something different, such as preparing a surprise dinner for her. I found that idea appealing. I sent a message to my wife inquiring if she has any commitments after work. She responded, "No, I'm available." The text conversation appeared to be quite pleasant. I prepared a lovely dinner for her, accompanied by a fine bottle of wine and a bouquet of flowers. Upon arriving home, she cast a sorrowful glance in my direction. She expressed her sincere apologies, but a colleague from work is coordinating a surprise birthday celebration for another team member. That night stands as their sole opportunity. I shook my head, overwhelmed by frustration and anger. She departed immediately after I drove away. This was the moment. Following months of doubt, I required evidence. Surely, as you read this, you find yourselves pondering, dear friend, are you not able to recognize the signs? I could, yet I was wishing that I am mistaken, wishing that it was merely a bad dream. To be honest, I felt a sense of fear about discovering the truth, yet it was essential for me to seek it out. I required evidence. I found it difficult to take pride in that. I placed a tractor in her vehicle. I feigned being at work late to ensure she wouldn't notice my presence upon her return home. She has arrived home. I observed from afar as she departed once more in her vehicle. I trailed behind her as she ventured deeper into the outskirts of town. She ultimately maneuvered into a parking area that was tucked away in the corner. She remained poised, anticipating the arrival of another vehicle alongside her. It was indeed him, Margus. She exited and entered his vehicle. Their actions were unmistakably clear. I documented her entering his vehicle as evidence against her. In the days that followed, she maintained the appearance that all was well. She may not be aware that I am in the know, yet she behaved as if everything was perfectly normal, smiling at me and even holding my hand during breakfast. She departed for work. I took a day off and chose to investigate the laptop for any signs of suspicious activity. There existed an absence. While searching through her drawers, I admit it wasn't my finest hour, I discovered an iPad tucked beneath the bottom drawer. I presumed it was purchased by my wife, as it did not belong to me. Fortunately, it was not password protected. I'm uncertain whether she neglected to secure it, but fortune smiled upon me. I entered and observed. This is the point at which the impact is truly felt. I examined the iPad and reviewed the text conversations, but found nothing. Nevertheless, the experience that awaited me is one I will never forget. A folder containing images of my wife in various intimate poses was present for him. There were numerous. However, there was additional information. And videos were present. I understand that I ought to have refrained from looking at them, yet I did so anyway. The videos were quite explicit. Margus is having an intimate relationship with my wife, and she seems to be enjoying it. However, there is more to consider. My wife was observed in a compromising situation with another woman and a man, with Margus present. However, the other individual was someone who truly repulsed me. He holds prejudiced views. He bore tattoos that represented certain groups known for their reprehensible nature. As I mentioned, a reprehensible individual. Margus appeared to align with his perspectives, which was appropriate. It was beyond my comprehension. My wife is involved with a man who possesses prejudiced beliefs. This was a woman who held a strong aversion to any form of bigotry, just as I did. What could have motivated her to take this action? What was it that she perceived in him? Witnessing her complete complicity truly affected me. Throughout our marriage, we frequently discussed our fantasies, yet we never took the step to bring them to life. As a man, it involved threesomes, among other experiences. However, my wife expressed that she would never consider it. Do not engage in intimate relations with another woman or partake in actions that may cause her discomfort. I embraced that decision without hesitation. I was not troubled by her reluctance to participate. I cherished her deeply. Witnessing her engage in activities she never shared with me was painful, experiencing significant pain. I have viewed all the videos. I understand I made a mistake. I transferred the videos and images to my laptop as documentation of infidelity. Ultimately, that is what holds significance. I desire her departure. I am at a loss as to why she made that choice. I am uncertain as to why she declined my proposal for the fantasy route, if you will. What distinguished him from others? What drew her to a man I believed she held in disdain due to his representation? I had a conversation with Daniel regarding all matters. He is an exceptional individual and a valued friend. He was astonished that I was discussing my wife. He felt a sense of disgust towards her, yet he couldn't help but observe her transformation. I informed him of my desire to pursue a divorce from her. He comprehended. He stated that he possesses sufficient support. He expressed that addressing the situation with her and him is futile, as she has already reached her decision. He expressed that I require a new beginning and to seek out someone who is genuine, rather than a mere illusion of the woman I once married. Similar to me, Daniel detests bigotry and expressed his disapproval of my wife's actions by shaking his head. Daniel has been acquainted with my wife for a significantly longer period than I have. After my conversation with Daniel, I felt a sense of empowerment and control. For several months, I sensed that she held the reins. I felt apprehensive about uncovering the truth. I refrained from confronting her more assertively when I had my suspicions, as I was apprehensive about the potential consequences. At that moment, I was uncertain whether to part ways with her or to strive for a resolution. However, following the videos, images, and messages, I was fully aware of the course of action I needed to take. I visited the attorneys to initiate the divorce process. I have reached my limit. My wife continued to behave as usual, frequently on the phone and going out late, presumably with him. I was indifferent. I waited 3 weeks for the paperwork to arrive. I have acquired them. I have made the decision to relocate. Fortunately, we had rented, and our lease was set to expire in 3 months. I was ready to make a payment up to that point. I have decided to relocate. The day has arrived. She proceeded to her place of employment. I fabricated a reason to arrive later, citing the need to compensate for the short staffing issue. She shrugged and replied, "Okay." There was no farewell, embrace, or kiss. However, that has not occurred for several months, so I had grown accustomed to it. She departed. I gathered my essentials and placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table, accompanied by my wedding ring. That was the conclusion. I spent time with my university friend Adam, who resided in a different city. I felt a sense of gratitude, yet it was distant from her, the city, and our shared social circle. I sought to distance myself from all of it. I shared the events with my parents, and they were taken aback, yet completely comprehended the situation. I certainly did not disclose every single detail to them. It was unnecessary. At this moment, my mind is solely focused on the feeling of freedom. I believe my wife would concur, as it was evident that Margus is the individual she desires. I look forward to a swift resolution of our divorce. I genuinely do. Later that evening, my phone was inundated with calls and messages. It was my spouse. I was taken aback, as I genuinely believed this was also her desire. However, it appears that I was mistaken. I did not engage in conversation with my wife. I found it uninteresting. Her messages were filled with apologies, declarations of love, and requests to talk, among other sentiments. The duration extended for several hours. I have blocked her number and removed all my social media accounts. I consulted with my attorney regarding my wife's signature on the divorce, but she has yet to sign it. She reached out to me via email. I would like to establish a means of communication, as my intention to proceed with the divorce remains unchanged. She reached out to me via email once more, expressing her apologies repeatedly and indicating that a conversation was necessary. I responded with a firm no. My sole desire is to finalize the divorce. She responded that she does not desire one. I am the one she truly loves, and Margus holds no significance. It's amusing that I never disclosed to her the reason for my departure, yet she clearly understands why. Witnessing her plead for forgiveness, accompanied by her guilty conscience, was surprisingly satisfying. I had a conversation with Adam, and he indicated that I could remain for as long as I desired. I appreciate him, but he did mention that I would need to meet her at some point. He mentioned that I departed without obtaining answers, and regardless of your efforts, there will come a time when you must confront them. Internally, I found myself at odds with Adam. What is the reason for engaging in conversation with her? What is the reason? For months, she showed minimal consideration for my feelings. She showed no concern for my well-being. She is concerned for her ailing friend Daniel, yet her actions suggest otherwise. What would be the reason for me to engage in conversation with her? I recognize that beneath the surface, my stubbornness is intertwined with a sense of anger regarding my wife's efforts to reconcile. I truly believed she would have signed and moved on with him. I find myself in a state of confusion, and to complicate matters further, my wife has expressed a desire to meet. I am fortunate to have an exceptional therapist. I discussed the affair, the photographs, the videos, everything involved. I've noted that my wife wishes to meet prior to her signing. My therapist was direct. She expressed that when I departed without explaining my reasons, it was as if I desired her to beg and to be concerned. You repeatedly reassured yourself that she wouldn't be concerned, yet beneath the surface, you yearn for her to genuinely care. You desire for her to experience the same pain she inflicted upon you. However, encountering her would require relinquishing some of your control, She was indeed correct. She emphasized that if you choose to meet in person, it is essential to pose the challenging questions regardless of whether you are prepared for the answers. You have questions that remain unanswered, and progress seems to be at a standstill. You are fleeing due to fear, and the past 7 years have been a deception. As I mentioned, straightforward. That occurred 2 days prior. My wife is eager to meet and is leaning towards not signing without an initial meeting. I discuss it with my parents and close friends. My father mentioned that it is possible to compel her to sign, but this process could extend over several months. However, if she is open to the possibility of signing after your discussion, then it may be worthwhile. Adam consented. I made the decision to meet with my wife. To describe my feelings as merely nervous would be an understatement. What is the best way to proceed with this matter? What questions should I pose to her? Should I remain open or adopt a guarded stance? Your assistance and guidance would be greatly valued. Seek out some guidance. You can be assured that it will be provided. Thrilla the Gorilla states, I am a strong advocate for face-to-face conversations. Considering that, be direct and inform her that signing the papers is a prerequisite for meeting her. If she declines, then avoid meeting her, disappear from her life, and pursue a lengthy path to divorce without any further encounters. If she agrees, arrange to meet her and ensure she has the opportunity to express herself. Limit your inquiries and remarks, and manage your emotions to the extent that you exhibit no emotional response, whether positive or negative. If you find yourself becoming emotional, take a moment to excuse yourself, regain your composure, and refocus on your objectives. Your primary objective is to ensure the documents are duly signed. Keep in mind that you possess all the answers you require at this moment. The meeting is intended for her, not for you. She seeks forgiveness, a relinquishment of burdens, and a chance to depart with diminished shame and guilt. She seeks to evade responsibility. Indeed, that expertise to exchange for her signature. At this point, there remains a possibility that she may choose not to sign. If she appears hesitant to sign, propose to focus on nurturing the relationship following the divorce. Convince her that there is still an opportunity for her with you. Indeed, it may not be the truth, but disregard that. What you seek is the signature. If necessary, resort to deception to obtain it. Once you obtain her signature, ensure that the affair is revealed at her place of employment. Contact human resources directly. It is important to acknowledge that she is no longer an ally, partner, friend, or soulmate. She represents an opponent and a legal issue, neither more nor less. Revision. I apologize for the delay in my update as I intended to share it the following day. Regrettably, unforeseen circumstances intervened. Before proceeding, I would like to express my gratitude to everyone who shared their feedback. I carefully reviewed each and every piece, taking all suggestions into consideration. I found myself feeling quite overwhelmed, to be honest. Your appreciation means a great deal to me. I would like to highlight a few points concerning my previous post. The narrative is established from a little over a year prior. The most recent post serves as an update to the current moment. I apologize for not having claimed it sooner. This update brings us to the current day. The story is now complete. However, I will organize each section with an update heading. Update. I am uncertain about how to begin. Much has transpired since my last post. Initially, I returned to my previous residence. Living with Adam was wonderful, yet I knew I had to return eventually. I have secured a flat just outside of town as my soon-to-be ex is still residing in our house. I informed my wife of my return and she expressed her happiness. Nonetheless, I made it unequivocally clear to her that cohabitation was not an option for me. She comprehended. Despite her attempt at the generic approach of suggesting we could sleep in separate rooms, I would prefer not to have that. I made it clear that I will not disclose my address, despite her attempts to uncover that information. She remains eager to meet with me, and I share that sentiment. A time and place have been arranged. The location served as a neutral venue, so to speak. It was close to the beach, populated with people, yet not overly crowded to avoid any unwanted scenes, which I certainly wish to avoid. I would like to arrange a meeting outdoors, just the two of us. While I appreciate the suggestions from some of you in the comments about bringing a friend, I personally felt it wasn't necessary. I truly value the guidance provided. I acknowledge that I will indeed be recording the conversation, which I have done. Prior to the meeting, I reached out to my soon-to-be ex via email to establish some ground rules. I made it clear that failure to adhere to these stipulations would eliminate any possibility of reconciliation. The guidelines were straightforward. 1. Please provide honest answers to all of my questions. 2. Please refrain from providing evasive responses such as, "It just happened," or "I'm not sure." I seek comprehensive responses. 2. If she leaves abruptly without addressing each question, it's finished. No reconciliation. 3. Please provide an answer, even if you believe it may cause me some discomfort. 4. Please ensure you arrive on time. If that is the case, there will be no reconciliation. We arrived at the location promptly. At this moment, it is a matter of patience. I am departing to return to my apartment. The following day, I reconnected with some other friends. They regard me as if I were Daniel, and I understand why. I received hugs and support, which I truly valued. However, it appears that news of our breakup has circulated, though I find myself questioning how they became aware. I shared the news with just a select few, yet my wife naturally informed her family and friends, leading to the inevitable domino effect. Nevertheless, it is clear that they were not fully informed of the complete details. Unbeknownst to them were the texts, images, and videos. Even my wife is unaware that I possess them. She believes that I departed due to her excessive time spent with Marges. She is unaware of what I possess. Her thoughts are solely occupied with moments spent alongside Marges. The husband expressed his displeasure. She ended it. I informed my therapist regarding the meeting. She suggested that I pose specific questions to provide her with a clearer understanding of the situation. I will provide an explanation for that at a later time. Today marks the day of the meet. I was anxious earlier, but now I am completely overwhelmed. It's not that I desire her return, rather, encountering her inevitably brings him to mind, causing me to lose both focus and control. Revision. I arrived at the beach at dawn, well before the sun had fully risen. I absorbed the environment, and upon reflection, it was an impeccable day. The sun shone brightly as individuals enjoyed their leisurely morning walks. I selected an excellent venue. Suddenly, I turned to find my soon-to-be ex approaching me. She wore a smile. She appeared stunning, undeniably polished, though there was a hint of fatigue and stress in her demeanor. No compassion. She came closer and attempted to embrace me. I extended my arm in a gesture of refusal, and she regarded me with an expression that conveyed a sense of understanding. We took our seats and made ourselves comfortable. She attempted to initiate a conversation, but I had no interest in engaging. I activated the recording function on my phone and began, "When did you share your first kiss with him?" "The initial week, specifically on Friday." "When did you first share a bed with him?" "On the same day, Friday." "Where is it located?" "At his residence." "Have you ever engaged in that activity in my bed? Is it significant?" I glanced at her and mentioned the email, addressing all the points I mentioned. "Affirmative." She begins to well up with tears. "When will it be?" She essentially indicated that it was several occasions when I was absent. Our neighbors observed him, but correctly assumed he was a professional associate. They regarded it with indifference. She had already offered her apologies repeatedly, yet I extended my hand to signal her to cease. "I have posed my additional inquiries. Have you mentioned me to him? Can you share some details about your marriage?" Indeed, it was somewhat indistinct during that period. My therapist has requested that I pose a specific question to her. This was the moment. When you initially encountered Margus, how soon did he mention me? Could you clarify what you mean? It is straightforward. What inquiries did he make about me during your conversation? Was he interested in finding out the duration of our marriage? Did we experience happiness, among other things? Following a brief moment of silence. Indeed, he inquired about our marriage and our happiness. What prompted that question? Didn't that seem peculiar to you? You encountered an individual with whom you have limited acquaintance, and he is inquiring about personal matters regarding our marriage. I believe he was simply expressing a general curiosity. I did not perceive it as unusual. The relevance of this question will be addressed later. Having posed several subtle inquiries, I resolved to tackle the more significant questions. I chose to inquire with her regarding the videos and pictures. Nevertheless, I approached it with a casual demeanor. I cited a racially motivated incident that occurred nearby at a local store. Certainly, those who have read my initial story will be familiar with the friend mentioned therein. I adjusted it gently and oriented it in this manner. Have you heard about the incident that occurred last Thursday? Which incident are you referring to? The individuals who assaulted the shopkeeper and vandalized his store, leaving behind a trail of hateful graffiti throughout the premises. That is truly unfortunate. Indeed, it is. I find it difficult to tolerate racists. How about you? She regarded me with an expression of confusion. I did not express any thoughts. At that moment, I felt I truly understood my intent. She was aware that I was informed about the pictures and videos. She began to weep once more. The duration of this event was approximately 5 minutes. I applied pressure. What would compel you to associate with individuals of that nature? Her face is flushed from tears as she struggles to regain her composure. It may not be as it appears or as you perceive it. What are my thoughts? What should I consider? What is it about this man that leads you to disregard your grandfather's sacrifices in Wabiyawatu, abandon your friends, and treat me with such disdain? At this moment, she was trembling. With tears glistening in her eyes, she gazed at me and responded. He assumed the role of the new leader in our department. He exhibited a candid and humorous demeanor. He instilled a sense of self-worth in others. Many women found him appealing. He possessed it from the very beginning. However, when he began to show interest in me, it felt as though he had selected me. What does that mean? The honesty is what you seek, and I must respond with honesty. From the outset of our conversation, he expressed his exclusive interest in me. I interjected and inquired after a few days. Indeed, that is precisely my point. He possessed an innate ability to bring joy to others instantly. Additionally, there is much more to consider. A sense of exhilaration washed over me as I caught his gaze from across the office room. I experienced a wonderful feeling when he addressed me, stating, "You're the only intriguing individual present." I felt that he selected me. Excuse me. I recognize that it may seem unfortunate. I feel inadequate and fragile. It is essential to grasp the experience of that time. Upon his initial arrival at the office, he exuded charm, confidence, and an appealing demeanor that was simply perfect. There was an undeniable charm about him that made me melt whenever he smiled. She proceeded. He had the opportunity to choose anyone from the office at that moment. He was the object of desire for all the girls. He was the subject of their continuous conversation. I understand how it may seem, but I never anticipated that he would choose me. Oh, you were hoping to be chosen? No, not at first. I initially thought it would be a light-hearted flirtation, but he made it evident that he desired something deeper, and that was the end of it. What was it? He felt like a substance I couldn't rid myself of. Once more, I recognize that it may seem unfortunate, but please allow me a moment. When he spoke to me and offered compliments, I was taken aback yet genuinely flattered. My confidence soared from 60 to an impressive 10,000. I reflected on the fact that this man had countless options, Yet he consistently expressed that I was his chosen one. He could recognize that it was me. What were you? I failed to understand. He conveyed to me that I was the chosen one. I was the one he was destined to be with. I understand this may not be what you wish to hear, but I must be truthful. Proceed, I instructed. I must admit, I found myself drawn to him. It was clear. I understand that now. Oh, you believed you were concealing it effectively. Indeed, at that moment. Initially, he inundated me with praise. Other girls envied me. I experienced an exhilarating thrill from it. I found it enjoyable. The more I observed him, the greater my desire grew, seeking, desiring to embrace the essence of royalty. Your kindness towards me has not gone unnoticed. I was fortunate, yet Margus at that time was operating on an entirely different level. I felt a thrill witnessing the envy of other women directed towards me. I requested honesty. She persisted. I reflected on how fortunate I am to have this man in my life. As time passed in his company, I observed a transformation in him, yet I found myself powerless to intervene. I inquired about her meaning. He was clear about his desires. He became familiar with me, yet without any reservations, he led me to pursue actions contrary to my preferences. The concept for those videos and pictures originated with him. I am aware of his friends and ideology. However, I chose not to challenge him or Margus, as I wished to avoid causing any upset. He expressed that if you are unable to bring me joy, there will be another who can. He possessed an attitude that conveyed a sense of how fortunate one truly is. In that moment, I experienced a surge of panic. I took significant measures to ensure his happiness. My sole desire was to bring him joy, and nothing else held significance. At that time, I was willing to do anything for him. It is clear that you observed that. I assured her that I certainly did, along with the details of the fantasies. I understand. However, as I mentioned, he was an addiction I couldn't escape. The more I encountered him, the greater my desire grew. He convinced me that you were the antagonist. He convinced me that you were hindering my progress and that you lacked respect for me. I am aware that it is not accurate. Once more, she found herself in tears. That is precisely the reason I undertook all actions, all that he instructed me to undertake. Despite his criticisms, I found myself unable to respond, captivated by the situation. Does that justify it? Considering the way you treated me? Canceling dinner plans? Canceling the camping trip? Is that so? No, I am not seeking forgiveness. I recognize that my actions have not warranted such kindness from you. I treated you poorly, and I will always regret my actions. However, I accomplished it. Canceling dinner, among other things, I was aware that my actions were causing you pain. However, I found myself unable to cease. He repeatedly expressed that I was worthy of more than you and that I should be treated with the utmost respect and admiration. The more I frequented upscale restaurants, attended exclusive theater performances, and adorned myself with exquisite jewelry, the deeper my resentment towards you grew. However, every time he brought it up, he consistently referenced you and your shortcomings. I acknowledge that I became distant due to my investment in the situation. I believed you let me down, while he did not. I am aware that it is not accurate. During that period, he held significant influence, and I accepted all of his statements as truth. She persists. It was only upon seeing the papers and the ring that a realization dawned within me. I understand that you may have doubts, but I assure you I am done with Marge immediately. I recognize that I may not be entitled to acknowledgement for it, yet I genuinely feel a sense of shame regarding the events that transpired. I cannot fathom the experience you endured. I acknowledge that I overlooked your worth and made you feel insignificant, but I was unable to recognize it at the time. I took action after reviewing the documents. I regret choosing this despicable individual over you. I gazed at her. Her responses caught me off guard, yet they appeared genuinely sincere. I did respond, however. In addition to your affair, are you aware of what the underlying issue is? Initially, you desired the relationship because you believed he selected you. You mentioned he was a drug, yet countless individuals manage to overcome their addictions. They acknowledge their challenges and seek assistance. You did not. You persevered. Your presence here is solely due to my role as your safety net, and now that support has vanished. A spouse cannot genuinely express love when they feel inadequate. She asserts that she did not. No, you did. For 11 months, I felt utterly devalued. As you are aware, I was consuming food, growing increasingly withdrawn and losing my sense of self. Throughout that time, you were venturing out each evening, hitting the gym, acquiring new attire, transforming into someone entirely different. You returned home and regarded me with disdain. Throughout that period, you refrained from allowing me any physical contact or interaction. You offered me nothing but mistreatment. Is there a concern regarding abuse? Indeed, you subjected me to mental abuse. Perhaps you weren't aware of your actions, but indeed you accomplished it. My closest companion and soulmate led me to feelings of self-loathing. She is once more in tears. It reached a point where I contemplated something I didn't vocalize, but you can understand the implication. At this moment, she is weeping profusely and offering numerous apologies, causing me to lose sight of our surroundings by the beach. Onlookers were present, and I found it necessary to remind her to take a breath. She regained her composure and continued to insist that it was he who was instilling toxic thoughts about me. I have one final question. Do you have feelings for him? Absolutely not. I understand that this may be hard to accept, but my feelings toward him are as intense as my feelings toward myself. Following several hours of conversation, she departed, affirming that all was indeed true. I held the title of her greatest love and so forth. I sat by the beach, lost in thought, contemplating the possibility of her being groomed, conditioned, and so forth. It is quite logical. After she met him, she underwent a significant transformation. My therapist had a specific purpose in mind when posing that question. While she is unable to diagnose Margus, she suspects he may exhibit sociopathic tendencies, which could explain his inquiry about our marriage. She remarked, "It is evident that he had a specific motive in inquiring about your marriage to your wife at such an early stage. Indicators are present. He selected your wife. He was aware that you were in a happy and stable marriage. Thus, he faced his challenge. The objective was merely to disrupt and devastate lives, as those with sociopathic tendencies often do. Margus would never have pursued a single girl, as there was no challenge to entice him. However, with your wife, it was not only her that he sought to control, but you as well, her loved ones. He transformed her into everything that your wife opposes and ensured she complied. He transformed you, through your wife, into a solitary figure consumed by despair." She went on to explain, "That's the reason you never addressed her following the texts and videos. You lacked any evidence whatsoever. That is precisely what he and your wife engaged in. He orchestrated the situation, yet your wife participated with enthusiasm. Sociopaths often engage in manipulation and exert control over the narrative. When you trailed your wife to the parking lot, he likely anticipated that you would pursue her. If you were to confront them in that situation, it is highly probable that your wife would align herself with him immediately. Consequently, he would have emerged victorious. Individuals exhibiting sociopathic tendencies lack empathy. They are motivated by witnessing the pain they inflict on others. Is there any validity to that claim? Is my wife a victim of a sociopath? It fits, yet a part of me remains indifferent. At times, a part of me is deeply invested. Who was this individual I found myself repeatedly questioning? I've never witnessed a single individual enter with such commanding presence and devastate the lives of others. Yet at his core, He embodied the complete package. He held a managerial position, earning a respectable income. At 30 years old, he appeared to be just 21, boasting an impressive physique and exuding confidence. Would that prompt women to turn right? Perhaps my soon-to-be ex was correct in stating that she concluded her relationship with him on the day I departed. After I departed, my neighbor informed me that Marges continued to visit my residence, insisting on speaking with my soon-to-be ex. According to my wife, he seemingly repeated this on several occasions during our meeting. His behavior resembled that of a physically abusive spouse. According to my therapist, individuals with sociopathic tendencies often struggle to accept rejection, particularly when they feel a lack of control. After my wife ended the relationship, he started to behave unpredictably. What is the reason behind this? My therapist mentioned that it's straightforward. Your wife selected you instead of him. Fortunate indeed. For less than a year, he exerted his influence over her, yet she ultimately found the strength to bring it to a close. That certainly disrupted his plans. Revision. I reached out to HR regarding my wife and him. It appears that others have also reached out to HR. The news regarding the affair appears to be circulating widely. He departed soon after my wife and I had a conversation. I'm indifferent to the location. It holds no significance for me. My wife departed before any force was applied. It seems that there is considerable dissatisfaction regarding her behavior, particularly from her parents. She is currently residing with her parents and preparing for a relocation. She is receiving assistance from a psychologist, which is certainly beneficial for her. I continue to communicate with her family and our friends. They suggest that I should meet with my soon-to-be ex once more. However, that is not occurring. She must focus on her own recovery and improvement. Her family expressed that M had a significant impact on her. The divorce will be finalized in a few weeks. I've heard that some individuals mentioned she won't sign after I had to leave. I had to know why she did it. I needed to find out. Am I feeling improved? Indeed, that is correct. I believe my wife was as honest as she could possibly be. The dynamics of the situation are clear. My soon-to-be ex inquired about the possibility of reconciliation in the future. I must confess, it crossed my mind. Even if she finds herself entangled with a master manipulator, what basis do I have for trusting her? If I were to take her back, my thoughts would inevitably drift to him and the realization that I cannot compare to him. I would always feel like I am in second place, regardless of the circumstances. She guarantees me that this is not the situation. I have always been her soulmate. Even after her words, my life with her would never be the same. The lesson to be drawn from this narrative is that cheating is unequivocally unacceptable. It has a greater impact and causes more harm to the partners. Those who cheat exhibit a profound sense of selfishness. They admit their actions only when confronted or when they find divorce papers on the kitchen desk. I have no intention of marrying again. The impact of the affair has profoundly affected me. I continue to experience feelings of inadequacy regarding myself. I feel inadequate. I have resumed my gym routine and have been enjoying hiking and camping with friends. I have been making an effort to remain active and to move forward, yet I find myself grappling with this negativity. I feel resentment towards my soon-to-be ex for effortlessly winning my affection while he has chosen my wife. What was it about her that made this inevitable? I continued to remind myself. However, the inquiries I pose to myself seem futile, as the matter is now settled. The harm has been inflicted, and the pain lingers on. I continue to maintain my employment, and relocating to the outskirts of town is a positive decision. I am not among those who relocate thousands of miles away, though I understand the reasoning behind it. My professional and social environments have treated me well, and I am keen to preserve them. I have been entirely relocated, and I will not allow them to claim victory over me. I refuse to be a victim. My therapist mentioned that it will require time. It is time for healing. Please exercise patience. That concludes everything. There are limited updates to share, so this may be my final post. I would like to express my gratitude to all who contributed to the recent blog post. I have taken all your comments into consideration and truly appreciate them. It is now appropriate to offer some concluding remarks. Salvador M1 initiates our journey. You, sir, embody the pinnacle of leadership and strength. Your management of the situation was impeccable. What an incredible therapist you have. Preserve her and continue the journey of healing. I have full confidence that you will. Cranach concludes our journey. Although I acknowledge that her manipulation and conditioning influenced her actions, it does not alter the fact that she chose to cheat on you from the very first Friday with him. At that moment, she was neither manipulated nor conditioned. Such matters require time to unfold. Moreover, she has consistently demonstrated her love and care as a devoted wife in the past. No, she intended for this to occur and chose not to end the relationship with you, but rather to be unfaithful. From the outset, she determined that he held greater significance in her life than you, ultimately paving the way for her to become influenced by him. His ability to influence her stemmed solely from her own choice, as she desired him. The humiliation and abuse you endured afterward may have stemmed from her being influenced, yet the initial choice to betray your trust was a deliberate decision on her part. Your ability to meet with her and attentively listen to everything she expressed is commendable. It is unlikely that many would have been able to achieve that. Remain committed to your choice. End the marriage and subsequently do not have any further contact with her. The extent of the damage in this situation is undeniably beyond repair. Allow yourself the necessary time to heal, concentrate on your recovery, and take pride in your strength for overcoming that abusive situation. That is the reason I wish for you to derive everything from this for your own benefit. In a moment of profound pain, when the individual you hold dear has betrayed you in an unimaginable way, you found the strength to assert yourself and took the necessary steps to liberate yourself from that situation. In your situation, you managed to achieve this while preserving your dignity. You deserve far better than to be treated in this manner.